I get the tremendous privilege to introduce this spectacular group of teachers. Tonight was truly very selfish. I invited people who inspire me, who are incredibly thoughtful about prayer and prayerfulness, kavanah and intention. These are humans with whom many with whom I've had very intimate and deep conversations because they speak to my soul. And I really just wanted to hang out with them before Yom Kippur. Dr. Jane Shapiro is the founder of the Orot Center for Education. That's her day job. I know her as one of the most profound mentors, a teacher's teacher, and one of the most generous souls I've ever met. When I talk to her or learn from her, I find my heart opening wider to take in her wisdom and warmth and her beautiful Torah. When I asked her to help shape this evening, she didn't even let me finish before she said yes. She also happens to be leading Kol Nidre for her own community, so she comes to this conversation from many different levels. Rabbi Deborah Sacks Mintz, we had the gift of just getting a taste of some of her beautiful musical composition of the High Holiday liturgy just now, and we'll get a little bit of her just in a little bit. I truly pinched myself when she agreed to come because I cannot believe the kind of busy schedule that she has during this crazy high holiday season. But her melodies bring so many prayers to life for me, prayers that were meaningless and felt like just words that didn't resonate in any real way. And I am so excited to hear more about her creative process and the power of music when it's combined with prayer. Rabbi Rachel Barenblat sends all of us her regrets, and we send her our wishes for a speedy recovery. Sadly, she got slammed with COVID and apologized for not being up to coming to be with us for tonight. I know we wish her all a refuah shlema, that she should heal quickly and have a very healthy year ahead. She is a gorgeous liturgist, and I'm really sorry that she's not here with us to share her process, but I would encourage everyone to please check out her work at velveteenrabbi.com. And she promised to send something beautiful and appropriate that I will share with all of you with her regrets. Fran Loosen is a gift of a human. And you're hearing me read because I really got stuck knowing that I would talk on and on and on and on about each of these people and not let you hear them, which is why you're here tonight. So I'm going to read what I wrote about all of these people, even though I could talk about them forever. Fran, I am so glad that you agreed to join us tonight. Fran brings vast professional expertise in experience design, and her professional skills manifest in her personal life through deeply meaningful ritual design. I met Fran when I was a mikveh guide, and we spent many hours discussing the discomfort that people feel in adopting new rituals or in designing one's own ritual, no matter how much that ritual is really needed. And I'm hoping that Fran will talk a little bit about the power of ritual on us as humans, and also name the discomfort that many of us feel when thinking about designing our own rituals or adopting new ones that feel foreign. I've had a social media crush on Rabbi Samantha Frank for forever. She is half of the awesome Instagram account Modern Ritual, and I really just love her vibe. And then I actually got to meet her, and every part of her rabbinate is about turning Judaism into the warm hug that it should be. So that when we started talking about prayer and how inaccessible it can sometimes feel, this was exactly her lane. She wants people to have a ritual life that feels meaningful and resonant, and I love seeing all the ways that she works to make that possible. You'll see all of their bios in the chat, and I will introduce our fabulous workshop educators in a bit. Jane, thank you for hosting this beautiful conversation with me. I'm so excited to learn with all of you.
Oh, Ariel, it's a tough act to follow you. It's a tough act. Welcome, everybody. I'm just so honored to be here. I'm just keep looking at the chat box and seeing like how many people are here. It's amazing. especially in this time when, I mean, the only way I can really describe the time we are in, we can call it the 10 days of repentance. But to me, we are all in this liminal, holy, special time as a people. And what I was reminded in thinking about this is I dearly love poetry, which will come out in conversation, but I was thinking about one of the poem prayers and the High Holiday Liturgy that talks, it's a prayer to say, it's really asking for help in learning how to open the mouth to pray. And that one of the last lines is, if it works, the entire people, we all gather together. And listen to this one, I'm going to read the Hebrew. It's Amcha Misababim Otam Kechoma, which means your whole people circle around together like a fortified wall. And I thought to myself, well, what a great word, misababim. And I thought, well, if you switch that just a little bit, you get the word SVIVAH, misababim SVIVAH. So let's take that medieval piyut and just for a minute, I want everyone to just absorb the energy of how many women now? 74 women are in misovavot, who are circling around the experience of putting language and intention and their hearts, souls, everything into this liminal, this very holy time, like a fortified wall. And I'm just going to think about that image now. And I thank all of you for being here so I can take that with me into my Yom Kippur preparations. But I don't want to talk anymore. What I really want to do is ask Rabbi Sacks Mintz and Fran and Rabbi Frank to answer a question. And then in the hope that we can come back and have a second round of talking a little bit more in depth. So it's not just like presentations, but that we're going to try to get a little bit of circular conversation. But the question I want to ask each of you on the panel is if you could share with us, please, some practice that you use to enter this season, either just a season of intense focus, intense kavanah of focusing, or if it's around Yom Kippur, like what do you do to kind of move into holy space or intentional ritual creating space for yourself? And so let's start with that. Rabbi Mintz, Sacks Mintz, will you start first, please? So.
Sure. Thank you so much. Such an honor to be here. Thank you for having me in this really delightful and holy gathering. So, I mean, it might not be any surprise to any of you that my answer is going to center around song. Song for me is a fundamental spiritual practice. But particularly in this season, in the Yamim Noraim, the high holiday season, song as a tool for unearthing and bringing out that which is inside of us that words can't totally capture feels like a total gift in a season where we're encountering feelings and emotions that perhaps words can't totally capture. I'm called a little bit to one of my favorite teachings by the 18th century teacher, Rabbi Nachman of Bretzloff. And he taught that the nigun, the wordless melody, has the power to revitalize the self. And we're in the season right now, this period where we're like literally saying in the liturgy, who will live and who will die. And we are, according to the poetry, we don't know who will make it till the end. So what better tool to kind of enter into that uncertainty than a modality that allows us to like literally revitalize the self. So song for me.
Fran, you can go ahead.
I find so every September, because I'm not Jewish and I don't practice in the same beautiful way, but I find myself every September drawn to my own observation. And it started a number of years ago when I was really grappling, still 30 years later, with the death of my father. And I had this really profound experience listening to music, weirdly listening to the Kate Bush album that is on play constantly now. Our children are listening to it. It's so wonderful. And what I was brought to was really, I'd moved into a new home and I cleaned the home from top to bottom in a way that I had never needed to cleanse something in my life. And the metaphor is so rich of space and home and tending and clearing. And for all of the ritual work that I had done in the past, it made sense to me, but I was brought into the space of like, what is it about September that was so special? And of course, you look at the equinox and you look at the great religions of the world and you look at all this beauty, and that we're all called to this time if we trust our bodies. I really do believe that this, for me, comes very much from the the cellular level out. So for me, and I was drawn to it again this year. It was really funny. I'm like, I feel like I'm doing this Swedish death cleansing time where I'm like, I need to make things right so that I can move forward powerfully.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
This is great. Rabbi Frank.
Thank you so much. It's just such an honor to be here with these incredible other panelists and with all of you amazing women in this room. I would echo Rabbi Sacks Mintz, for me, music. And Fran, this is the first year I've ever felt the desire to clean at this time, but I was really excited. I didn't get that much cleaning done, but I was excited about it. But what I wanted to say, a part of what really helps me enter this time, I mean, Jane, you described it so, I mean, it can be such an intense time. And with that intensity, it can feel really scary. What if it doesn't feel right as a prayer leader? What if we don't create what our community needs? And so I try to really speak to that in myself and with other people, and remind myself that prayer, like all my yoga teachers tell me, is a practice. It's something that we do and that we always can return to. And whether you return to it every day or every week or even just once a year, reminding myself that every moment doesn't have to be the best moment. And also having lived through years of my life where prayer was amazing, and having lived through years of my life where prayer was the most isolating and horrible experience to get through, that just gives me a sense of perspective that helps, I think, me face this season with integrity, to receive the messages, but without getting stuck by the potential weight of the season.
So before I ask another question, I want to just invite, if any of you on the panel want to respond to what you heard from somebody else.
I just want to say, Rabbi Sacks Mintz, what you said about how sometimes a melody helps us experience something. I would just say that sometimes I think in Ariel, I think you said this at the beginning, sometimes I read words in the prayer book and I'm like, that's ridiculous. And then there's a melody and then I think, I believe this with my full soul. And just how amazing the power of music can be. So thank you for creating that music and for sharing about that music.
Does an example come to mind of a word I love the idea of a disconnect between the language that we use and the experience of how it might unfold itself in the experience. Yeah.
There's in the Reform prayer book, there's an offering of Psalm 51 that says, create a pure heart within me. And there's one of my classmates in rabbinical school, Cantor Jacob Niemi, wrote this incredible melody. A part of it says, I'll teach your love to the lonely, the lost will find their way home. And when I read that, I think, oh, what hubris, what? There's so many people who don't connect to God. Like, what a ridiculous thing to say and to assume is possible for everyone. And then I hear the melody and I And I think, yes, this is it. This is all that there is. And I want to sing this forever and then go out in the world and help people connect.
Yeah, beautiful. I just noticed in the chat that somebody said, I feel this way about Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King. And I wonder if that's, we want to flag that, just flag that, that there's many opportunities to look at the language of the prayer book, like, doesn't work for me, and yet some other entry point. We're sort of like flagging like tips to take away from the evening. Our parent, good. I like that Judy's saying like rethinking about the language, or just going deep in that, and that probing and looking at the language and trying to figure out might open it up, just the way the melody might open it up. One of the things I noticed.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, please.
Well, I was going to say not to further complicate that, although,
please further complicate it.
What would we be doing here if we weren't here to complicate things? But interestingly, Rabbi Frank, I totally am with you on what you just said so beautifully, but also I see song as like any other sort of midrashic tool, right? Any other opportunity for sort of excavating the hidden treasures of a text, and those treasures can be positive or negative. They can work for us or not, and the melody can do that in ways that are really nourishing for us spiritually, and they can also sort of continue to complicate the text for us in the exact same way that a midrash, that a rabbinic exposition on a text can actually further complicate it. And I could rattle off melodies.
How about an example?
Yeah, there are some melodies out there that sort of, to me, serve as highlighting some of the disconnect in texts. I really grapple with the sort of particularism in Aleinu, and I find that the offerings of melodies that we have at our disposal only magnify that, or disassociate from that in ways that aren't spiritually useful for me. And so in some ways, in my opportunities to pray, I choose to enter into that in personal silence, because it's actually through the lack of melody that I can have the opportunity to find the spaciousness in re-understanding that moment in text. So like melody is, when melody is done well, it's designed to elicit strong feelings, and those can be positive or negative.
Yeah. Fran, go ahead.
Well, there was just something that Ariel just reminded me that when we were talking the other day, that my kid's dad is a respiratory psychophysiologist, and he had done some study with this wonderful researcher named Luciano Bernardi, who had studied ancient texts and contemporary even singing, that there is a level of oxygenation that happens in the blood at 6 breaths per minute. And that's kind of the average, but that a lot of sacred singing from different traditions brings you into that ultimate oxygenation of the blood. So you're having a physiological response at the same time that you're encountering spirit, you're encountering beauty, you're encountering whatever it is that's lifting you into this space, but your body is actually having a physiological response as well, that you're full of oxygen and you're alert to the world in a fundamentally different way. And I just thought, this is so genius, because those folks knew it in their body. They wrote song according to what their body was feeling, instead of the science that now we know that like 6 breaths per minute is the, kind of what you're aiming for. I just think there's a generosity in that I love. So humming, it's singing, it's that rhythm and sign. So it's beautiful.
When you just did this with your hand, I'm thinking about the song that I've heard you sing, Rabbi Sacks Mintz, Ya'aleh, because it's in my ears right now, because I'm getting ready to, but this very ancient poem that's Ya'aleh, may it lift up, and the voice goes Ya'aleh, and it voices, and you can't help but feel your lungs elevate with that. It's very beautiful. I'm so struck by all three of you. I don't remember, but watching the screen is noticing, we think of Yom Kippur as like bad, that kind of emotion. And all three of you have gone like this with your bodies. Loosen, clean out, open space, notice differences and use the voice, like even in the face of uncertainty, something, and you want to say you can't capture it. And I just want to flag that for me. It's such a choreographic, beautiful way that all of you are talking about these moments. So, which is, I think, it's in some ways counterintuitive to what you would say, like ask someone on the street, like, what do you think Yom Kippur is all about? Would be about this. And now we're talking about this opening that I think really gets to some core piece of what this holiday is all about. I'm going to share like something that, I think Ariel thinks I have like years and years because I'm old, lots of built up wisdom about these things. And pretty much I'm just like every year I find something new. And when I was listening to because one of the things I want us to sort of think about is like some of you also take upon yourself the role of praying on behalf of or leading or moving a community forward, which is different than just personal preparations. I think everyone should go like, I've got to loosen something up somehow now between now and Tuesday evening. Whatever you need to do, stand on your head, because Rabbi Frank meant yoga, be outside, sing, clean a closet. Okay, doing something that will open up. Yes, Ali Alpert's Loosen is amazing. That kind of move. But I also want to think about what does it mean to offer your experience or your preparation on behalf of others? And what does that mean to you? And I happened to notice on Rosh Hashana when the leader is doing a prayer called the Hineni, when they just go like, I'm worthless, but now I've got this task of trying to bring everybody along with me. And there's a line about spread over your canopy of love upon us, this Degel Ahavat, which I had never noticed before. And I thought, the leader is asking God to spread love over us in this moment, which is, again, that's not what I usually think about in the high holiday season. And yet that's what the experience is, drawing us for closer intimacy. So that was a long Degel Ahava, canopy of love. Thank you. So that's, and Fran, even if you're somebody who shapes experiences for people, or Rabbi Frank or Rabbi Sacks Mintz, is there something that's in your mind or some particular thing you think of when you realize that there are people around you, behind you, next to you, that you're also supporting in some loosening or prayer experience of their own? And how do you do that?
I'm happy to start. I want to say one thing actually on the topic of singing, which is that a few years ago, I've never been a particularly confident singer, and I just gave that up because I felt that if I was going to lead people, I needed to do it fully, and I love to sing. And so I think that is related. I don't typically think of myself as praying on behalf of others. But one thing that I love about the liturgy this time of year is that all of our confessionals are in the communal. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I feel really annoyed. I don't want to confess something and say, we have done this, like beat my head over something I haven't done. I feel like, what is that? But then when I consider that I am a part of a group and that it might be hard, and I know that it is for myself to admit when I've done something wrong, like I have two options. One is to say, well, have I actually participated in this wrong in some way? Maybe by not, where we are, I'm not going to go into that. Can I be more honest with myself? But two, what a gift it is for us to all say the words together, so that for anyone who is confessing that particular thing, they don't have to do it alone. And then it becomes very easy to say the words, to remember that we can repent or, enact repair at any time in our life, but this is our designated communal time, so that we don't have to do the hard work ourselves.
Yeah, I feel like what you just said suggests that there's a certain loneliness to doing all of this work. And if we can break down the loneliness by singing together, by being in community, that changes, that makes the experience pivot from just being alone. So, yeah.
I've been thinking about that a little bit, just doing some additional reading and listening on grief. And I think that we were talking about the other night about the difference between something like grief having a universality to it, that loss of a beloved, loss of a family member, a loved one, anyone. Every experience can be completely different, and it is radically different. But there's a similarity that bubbles up that you can actually, write TV shows about, and that people can find themselves in and find their space in. And that universality allows us to form community. And if people have kept themselves out on the outside, and they are struggling on their own, that there is this beauty of being brought back into the fold, into friendship, into the communion of sitting next to someone on an airplane, and having the openness to have a really deep conversation about your own experience with loss. And I was reminded that Lucille Clifton has this beautiful quote that says, pretty much behind every set of eyes is something you yourself could not endure. Mm-hmm. And when we give each other that look of like, what do you have? That creates an entirely different space for us as humans. And I think that that's not just coming out of grief and loss, it's just coming out of the humanity of like understanding and seeing each other, and a little bit of walking each other home, little bit of that pure heart.
What you just said reminds me that right before Kol Nidre, you asked for permission to pray within the community of what's called Avaryanim. Everybody who's crossed over a line, which is kind of a loose translation of like sinners. Everyone's crossed over. So look around, because behind everybody's eyes in the room is something. Okay, let's lay it down. Now we're all here. We're not alone. We're not alone. And let's sing. And now let's sing together. So yeah, please. Yeah.
Wow. It's really, that was really beautiful. I'm like stuck on the grief piece now and the loneliness.
Yeah, the grief piece.
Yeah, I guess I'll just thinking a little. I was going to share one thing, and now this is the beauty of a panelist. Now I'm like, I want to stay here on the sort of loneliness and think for just a second about like the loneliness of leadership for those of us who serve in prayer leadership or any other type of leadership in our different ways of being in the world. There's this really beautiful midrash, this beautiful story in the Talmud of Rabbi Akiva, who was like a famed great teacher. And it was said that when he would pray by himself, he would get so lost in the prayer that he'd be sort of found wandering around the Beit Midrash, wandering around the library, around the room. And he'd start in one corner and he'd finish in another corner. And like he was so engrossed in his own experience. But when he led the community, when he led his students and led others in prayer, he would like shorten it to the extreme, so as to, as the text says, so as to not encumber the community.
Yeah.
Now, this story is like generally thought to be sort of a example of ideal humility and leadership. But when I read it, my first thought is he's not showing his full self to the community he's leading, right? He has all of these prayers inside of him that he's afraid is going to encumber his community. And I often imagine this time of year when, especially referenced Jane Hineni, and this sort of moments when the leader kind of bears their soul, their extreme imposter syndrome. Can we sort of, whatever type of prayer we are in the world, whatever type of leader we are in the world, can we kind of bridge that gap between those two Rabbi Akiva postures? Can we both hold the responsibility, and can we also allow ourselves to like be seen as getting a little bit lost?
Yeah. Ariel, you're shaking your head. I know you want to say something.
I don't know how. I'm just nodding and going, wow. and I know talking is not really smiled upon during during services at any given point in time, but really I kind of wish you are all sitting behind me during services and just whispering in my ear. This is so beautiful and so rich. Can we just sit here forever? I'm so grateful to each of you for bringing so much of yourselves. I know each one of you plays such a significant role in not just being so thoughtful about how you come to prayerfulness and intention, but also how each of you mentioned leading others in that process, either as the head of a community or seeking out others to help them find what they need in whatever moment it is, and just the power of you empower others in something that is simultaneously so powerful and so fragile. The ability to kind of talk the language of someone else's soul is such a gift. Thank you for even just this little glimpse into that. I think that for me, being able to feel like I can open that prayer book or close that prayer book and listen to what's in here, really either my breath or the song or a word or whatever it is, each of you has given me more permission to kind of walk into a day that feels very weighty, where I want to show up with prayerfulness. So thank you for paving that path. I'm so grateful to each one of you. Can I ask, Rabbi Deborah, can I ask you to give us a little bit of music before we get to go into our amazing workshops?
Sure. I'm just going to share a nigun, a melody that is for one of the high holiday, one of the Yom Kippur piyutim, one of the Yom Kippur poems. And I'm called to share it right now because we're in this beautiful gathering of women. And we recorded, this is a traditional Hasidic, a traditional melody from a part of the ultra-Orthodox community. And this past summer, we recorded an album of 13 Hasidic nigonim sung entirely by women, which is the first time that this has happened in the world. Traditionally, these nigonim, these melodies have not been sung publicly in women's voices on significant platforms. So that is one example of giving new life and new meaning into song and into text. So this is the Chabad Ki Anu Amecha nigun. Ay, 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 ya, ba, da, dee, da, do. Ay, ay, ya, ba, ay, ay, ya, ba, ba. Di-di-dum, ba, ay, di-di-dum, ba, da, dee, da, do. Ay, ay, ya, ba, ay, ya, da, da, do. Ay, 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 da, do, ba, ya, da. Ay, ay, oh, ridam, bay, ay, da, ba, da, di, da, do, bay, da, la, la, da, da, diddy, diddy, da, da, diddy, da, da, ay, 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 da, 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 diddy, da, la, la, diddy, da, da, ya, diddy, da, da. Ki anu amecha ve'yata Elokeinu ayanu vanecha ve'yata avinu anu ayasecha ve'yata avinu anu segula secha ve'yata Elokeinu dididum dididum bambo dididum dididum ayai dididum bam bam bo dididum dididum bambo dididum ayai ayabam dididum bambo oh.
Oh my goodness, thank you. Okay, I don't even want to talk to kind of break that magic, but I am going to instead lead us into the rest of tonight. Seriously, still pinching myself, just still pinching myself. Okay. Does everyone see workshop choices? Yes? Good. Okay. With that amazing paving by these amazing individuals, I am so excited that we get to flex our own prayerfulness muscles with these incredible workshops. I'll be honest, I don't envy any of you because you have to choose only one. And I know that that's very unfair. I'm going to explain each one, and then I'll open them up so that you can choose where you want to go. Kohenet Rachel brings us her beautiful talent as a liturgist and ritualist and writing instructor. She has even created her own volume of Elul prayers that is absolutely stunning. Her workshop is going to be in room 1, tapping into creative writing. Bring something to write with, paper, whatever makes you feel creative. Rav Amalia Mark is clergy in residence at Mayim Chaim, which is dedicated to making the mikvah ritual more meaningful and more accessible. Ritual design is her jam, and that is definitely putting it lightly. I've seen Rav Amalia design rituals for some of the most deeply personal life moments. We are so lucky to have her in room 2, leading a workshop on personal ritual design. Bring a pen and paper, and she will help guide you through designing a small ritual that is meaningful for Yom Kippur. Rabbi Sarah Tasman is actually the first ever SVIVAH educator, so she holds a very special place in my heart and in SVIVAH's history. On a personal note, Rabbi Sarah Tasman was the first person who opened up a world of Jewish spirituality for me beyond the one that I grew up with. She embodies kavanah and intentionality in every way, and she happens to also be a beautiful artist. So I am so glad that she will be in room 3 using art and creativity as a gateway to prayerfulness. She asks that you bring along any art supplies that you have on hand, something to create with, something to create on. You can bring pens, markers, paints, colored pencils, pastels, paper, a journal, collage materials, anything. At minimum, a paper and pen will work too. And room 4. Yael Fussberg. Many of you, I am sure, are actually here because of her. She is so gifted at helping us reach into the places inside that are hard to access, and she does so with gentleness and generosity. Others of you, if there is someone dear to you who you've lost, or if you would like to explore the experience of Yizkor and remembering a loved one, this is the room for you. Room 4, Yael Fussberg, Yizkor and remembering loved ones. Bring a pen and a paper, a small candle if you might have one, and if you have something that comes from your loved one, either a photo, a piece of jewelry, candle holders, anything, a memento, it's not required, but lovely to have. You should know that you will not have to share anything that is created in any of these rooms unless you feel comfortable or moved to do so. And just a gentle reminder to everyone that whatever is shared in any of these rooms stays in these rooms. You are in the very, very best of hands. You'll see their bios in the chat. I'm going to have to take down the screen, so make a little note to which room that you want to be in. And I want to take a second and actually show you the beautiful faces of the people that you're going to be with. So hang on, I'm going to, I have to make the fabulous Rachel Can into a co-host. Thank you for your patience. Here we go, so that she can work her magic. And there you can see her. And here is the fabulous Yael. And I got one more so that you can know where you're going. Okay, these are your amazing workshop leaders. And I'm going to open up the breakout rooms now so that you can choose them, and we'll have some beautiful time together. Please enjoy them. I'm so excited.